today I want to cover a specific type of pointer in C. So if we take a look at this main program, first of all, if we have a pointer to a character, then we can assign it a string. And then since R is of type char star, if we take the address of R, then we obtain a char star star, which is a pointer to a character, right? Okay, so then consider an array, right? Char array with a character array with size 6. So if we write out the name of this array, which is just array in this case, then it decays to the address of the first element. And since the first element is a character, that means the type of this is a pointer to a character. So that's char star. So then you might think, well, if array is of type char star, then if we do and array, that should be char star star, right? Like and array should be a pointer, the address of array, and since array decays to char star, then and array should be char star star. Okay, so we can try that and see what happens here. Okay, so we get a warning. Incompatible pointer types initializing char star star with an expression of this type. Okay, so what is this type? Well, it's actually a pointer to an array of 6 characters, right? It's a pointer to an entire array, in this case of size 6, right? Okay, so let's uncomment this and comment out this. Let's try again. Okay, and this time we don't get any warnings. Right, so when we have array, right, if we refer to the name of the array, then it decays to the address of the first element. But when we do and array, it's really saying let's take the array and obtain a pointer to the entire array. So array is just pointing to the first element, the first character, so its type is char star. But when we write and followed by the name of an array, then we obtain the type of this is a pointer to the entire array of size 6, right? And this size can be anything, right? If the size of this array was initialized to 10, then this would be 10 instead. Okay. So how is this useful? Well, we have a function here where we can demonstrate calling this function with array, right? With and array. Okay, so let's go to this function. So this function takes a pointer to an array of 6 characters, right? In this case, we name it our pointer, and then inside of this function, we take the pointer and dereference it to access the elements. We print out the contents of this array, and then here we kind of just show the size differences of our pointer and star our pointer, right? So next, we modify the array by dereferencing the pointer. So we change the first element to a j and the last element to a y. And after modifying the string, we print it out. So let's go ahead and run this program and see what we get. So we already compiled it. Okay. So we see that the h was modified to be a j, and the o was modified to be a y. And the size of the pointer, right? It doesn't matter what type of pointer it is, it's always an address. So the size of the pointer to the entire array of size 6 is obviously 8 bytes. But when we dereference it, right, when we dereference this pointer that points to an entire array of 6 elements, then we're basically asking what the size of the array is, which is 6, right? That's the entire array size. And we see after modification that hello is modified to jelly. Okay, so at the end of the program, I print out some details about the types. So the type of A, and we see here we have this printed out, array name decays to address of the first element, right? So that's because in the beginning of the program here, we check if A is indeed equal, the content of A is indeed equal to the content, the address of the first element. Yeah, so that means the array name does indeed decay to the address of the first element. So let's go back to the output. So the type of A is char star, which is a pointer to a character. In this case, it holds the address of the first element of the array. And the type of AND array is not char star star. Instead, it's of this type, which is a pointer to an entire array. Okay, and both hold the same address, but they have different types. Okay, so this is very important. They have different types. So we print out the address, right? The address is the same. The address of the first element in the array is exactly what A is, so obviously these two are the same. And the address of the array is obviously still the same, right? It's just that the type of AND array is different. It's a pointer to an entire array of length 6. Okay. So now let's look at this example, right? So print grid prints a 2D array with fixed columns. So let's look at the main function. So we define a 2D array, right? A 3x5 matrix, essentially. And each row consists of 5 elements, and we have 3 rows. Okay. So when we call print grid 3 board, and we pass in 3 into the first argument because that's the number of rows, and then we pass in board, and board decays to a pointer to the first row, and hence its type is a pointer to an array of 5 characters. So why is this its type? Well, recall that when you type out the name of the array, right, in this case it's a 2D array. So what does this mean? Well, since it's a 2D array, then the address, right, this is the address of the first element. So the first element is the first row, right? This row, A, B, C, D, E. So that's the first element. And this is a 1D array. Okay, so board is the address of this. So that's the address of this array. Right, so that's why we get a pointer to this entire array of 5 characters. Okay. So now let's look at this function. It's very simple. It just prints out every single element in this 2D array. And yeah, so we see that this 2D array has it has 3 rows, and every single row contains 5 elements, right? Yeah, so this type can also be useful. In this case, it specifically specifies that it must be a pointer to an array of 5 characters. Okay. Let's compile this. Okay. Yeah, and we see that, so we see that we print out the content of this 2D array. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover in today's video lesson. So yeah, I'm sure if you've played around with C, then you've definitely seen this type of pointer before, but you might just like go on without really thinking about what this type actually is. So it's basically a pointer to the entire array. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for watching.